I used to believe that family, no matter how strained or complicated, always came back around in the end. My late wife used to remind me that asterisk love is a circle, asterisk, and even if it bends or twists, it never truly breaks. But as I stood in the bustling airport terminal that morning, suitcase by my side, heart fluttering like a boy on his first trip, I felt for the first time that perhaps she had been wrong. Or maybe the circle had broken long ago, and I had been too blind to see it. For months I had planned this vacation. I had researched hotels, compared flight routes, watched videos of Florida beaches so many times I could recognize them from memory. The grandkids were excited, at least from what I gathered through the rare video calls. My son, Jacob, had mentioned offhandedly that money was tight, so I stepped in immediately. "Dad, we'll figure it out," he'd said back then, but I could tell from his voice that they wouldn't. And I needed this trip as much as they did. I hadn't had real family time since my wife died 4 years ago, and the house still echoed with her absence. Every corner held her laughter. Every room reminded me of the warmth that used to fill it. The thought of spending a week with my grandkids building sandcastles, sharing stories, maybe even watching a sunrise together, filled me with a joy I hadn't felt in years. So I paid for everything, not because I had to, because I wanted to, because I believed it would bring us closer again. I packed days in advance, folding shirts my wife used to compliment, polishing the sandals she once teased me about. I even packed sunscreen for the kids, imagining myself helping them rub it on before they ran off toward the waves. I left early that morning, the sky pale and quiet, the streets still waking up. My taxi driver cheerfully asked where I was headed, and I found myself grinning like a child. "Family vacation," I said, chest warm with pride, one I've been looking forward to for a long time. But beneath that excitement, something strange sat heavy in my stomach. A dull ache, a sense that the distance between Jacob and me had grown wider than I wanted to admit. Still, I pushed the feeling aside. Optimism had carried me this far. Surely it could carry me through one more trip. I stepped into the airport, feeling the familiar chill of overworked air conditioners and the hum of travelers dragging their lives behind them on wheels. I checked my ticket 3 times, afraid it might magically vanish if I didn't keep it close. My gate was already displayed on the screen's gate 28, boarding in an hour. I found a seat near the window, my suitcase upright beside me. Outside, planes taxied across the brightening horizon, leaving trails of white exhaust against a gold-streaked sky. My phone buzzed, a message from Jacob, asterisk, "Hey Dad, boarding soon. Kids excited. See you in a few hours." Asterisk, I smiled, my heart loosening. The little ache faded. Maybe everything would be fine. I imagined walking out of the Florida airport and seeing the kids sprint toward me with open arms. I imagined Jacob giving me a grateful pat on the back, maybe even saying, "Thanks for everything, Dad, we needed this." I held onto that image like it was oxygen. Time passed, boarding announcements echoed through the terminal. I checked my watch again and again, still early. Still waiting, still hopeful, then my phone rang. Asterisk, asterisk, Jacob. Asterisk, asterisk, I answered immediately, smiling. "Hey, son, Dad," he interrupted, and something in his tone made my smile falter. He sounded nervous, hesitant, almost guilty. "Is everything okay?" I asked, sitting up straighter. There was a long pause. Too long. Dad instincts are sharper than people realize, and in that silence something inside me tightened, warning me of the cliff I was unknowingly standing on. "Listen," he finally said, voice low, "about the trip." I swallowed. "What about it?" Another pause. I heard muffled noise in the background, airport announcements, his kids chattering, and then another voice. Melissa's, cold, hurried. "Just tell him, Jacob." My blood ran cold. "Dad, you're not coming with us." I froze. The air around me seemed to vanish. My hand tightened around my phone until my knuckles whitened. "What do you mean I'm not coming?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. We decided it's better if this is just a trip for us. A young family, you know, to reconnect, to distress. We thought it'd be good for everyone. Everyone except me. My throat tightened. I paid for this vacation. I reminded him softly, I know, Dad, but... Then Melissa's voice slipped through the speaker like venom. We deserve one vacation without this old man dragging us down. I felt the words hit me physically, like a slap, like a blow to the chest. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My breath caught somewhere deep inside as everything I'd hoped for shattered instantly. Dad, Jacob continued, now sounding impatient, don't make this harder than it needs to be. We're already boarding. We'll talk when we get back. Talk. About what? How they repaid my kindness with exclusion. How they took my money and left me at the gate like unwanted luggage. He hung up just like that. I stared at the phone screen long after the call ended, hoping, praying, that maybe it would ring again. That maybe he'd say it was just a misunderstanding. That maybe someone would come running through the terminal laughing and saying, Dad, it was a joke. Of course, you're coming with us. But the phone stayed silent, and the hope inside me slowly crumbled. I didn't board my flight. I didn't even stay in the airport long enough to watch their plane take off. I stood from my chair like an old man rising from a long fall, dragged my suitcase behind me, and walked out of the terminal. People brushed past me, laughing, rushing, living unaware that the world I had known, the family I believed I belonged to, had quietly slipped through my fingers. Outside, a cold breeze swept across the taxi lane. I pulled my jacket tighter, swallowing the thick knot building in my chest. Where to? The taxi driver asked. I opened my mouth, but the only word that came out was, home. It wasn't until I reached my silent house, set my suitcase down by the door, and sat alone in the dim kitchen that the full weight of it hit me. They didn't want me, not even for a vacation I paid for, not even for a week, not even as family. The gift I had so lovingly prepared had become the very knife they used to cut me out. And in that moment, hurt, betrayed, and sitting in the shadows of a home that suddenly felt too big, I began to feel something new. Not sadness, not disappointment, something colder, sharper, the first flicker of a decision that would change everything the moment they returned. The silence of my house used to feel peaceful. It used to be the kind of quiet where you could hear the echo of laughter that once lived there, where the shadows of old memories kept you company. But the silence that greeted me after I returned from the airport felt different, sharp, almost hostile, as if the walls themselves knew what had happened and mourned with me. I closed the door behind me and stood in the entryway for a very long time. My suitcase, the same one I had optimistically packed days earlier, sat beside me like a humiliating reminder of the man I had been that morning, hopeful, excited, naive. Now I felt empty. I dragged the suitcase into my bedroom, unzipped it slowly, and stared at the neatly folded shirts, the vacation shoes, the bottle of sunscreen I had bought for the grandkids. My throat tightened. I closed the suitcase without unpacking a single item and pushed it into the closet. I didn't want to see any of it again. That night, I didn't bother turning on the lights. I sat in the living room in the darkness, listening to the distant sounds of cars passing outside, the tick of the old clock on the wall, the soft buzzing of the refrigerator. Each sound reminded me just how alone I was, and how easily my son and his wife had shown me my place in their life. Not as family, not as someone they cherished, just as convenience, a card in a wallet, a babysitter when needed, a background character to be dismissed when no longer useful. As the hours stretched, pain transformed into clarity slowly, quietly, like dawn creeping over an empty field. At first, I told myself they were just stressed, maybe overwhelmed, maybe they said hurtful things without meaning them. But every time I replayed the phone call in my mind, Melissa's whisper cut through my excuses like a blade. Asterisk, we'll finally have a vacation without this old man. Asterisk, not your father. Not Dad. Not him. Asterisk, this old man. Asterisk, the contempt in her voice was unmistakable. I realized something I had spent years avoiding. They didn't respect me, not even a little. And respect is the foundation of love. Without it, love becomes pity at best and manipulation at worst. Around midnight, I stood from the couch and walked into the kitchen, flipping on the harsh overhead light for the first time. Since I'd gotten home, the brightness stung my eyes, but it also sharpened my resolve. I took a deep breath. Then I whispered aloud, for the first time acknowledging it to myself. Things are going to change. The words hung in the air, heavy but true. I wasn't a cruel man. I wasn't vindictive by nature. I'd given Jacob everything he ever asked for: help with college, help with his first car, a place to live when he and Melissa were struggling, endless time with the grandkids. I had been patient, understanding, generous, but generosity without appreciation becomes exploitation, and I was done being exploited. Asterisk asterisk the first step, the house asterisk asterisk the next morning. I woke up with a strange sense of calm. The hurt was still there, aching beneath my ribs, but something steadier had taken root within me. Resolve. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and looked around at the house that had once been filled with love. Jacob and Melissa had lived here for nearly 2 years. Rent-free, they often joked that they were keeping me company, but I realized now that they treated my home like theirs simply because I never asked for anything in return. But this house, it was still legally mine, every inch of it, and for the first time I allowed myself to reclaim that fact. I pulled out my old metal lockbox from the closet and sorted through the documents: property deed, mortgage papers, tax statements, all in my name, not theirs. A bitter, quiet satisfaction washed over me. They had taken advantage of my kindness because they assumed it was endless, but boundaries are a form of love too, love for yourself. Asterisk asterisk the second step. A visit to the lawyer asterisk asterisk 2 days into their vacation, presumably while they lounged on a beach I had paid for. I put on a clean shirt, grabbed my folder of documents, and drove to see Michael, my lawyer. He had handled my estate plans since my wife passed and knew me well enough to raise an eyebrow the moment I walked in. "Haven't seen you in a while," he said. "Everything all right?" I sat down slowly. "No," I admitted, "it's not." He didn't push. He listened as I explained what had happened, every detail, every word, and with each sentence, the calm in my voice surprised even me. When I finished, Michael nodded, understanding immediately. "What do you want to do?" he asked gently, and for once I didn't hesitate. "I want to revoke their right to live in my house," I said. "I want new locks installed. And I want to update my will completely." Michael studied me for a long moment. "Are you sure?" I nodded. "They made their choice," I said quietly. "Now I'll make mine." Asterisk asterisk the third step, the package asterisk asterisk. When I returned home that afternoon, I felt lighter, still wounded but determined. It was time to gather everything they needed to see, everything they needed to understand. I found an old cardboard box in the storage room and placed it on the dining table. Inside, I began arranging items one by one, asterisk asterisk printouts of every bank transfer asterisk asterisk I had made to help Jacob over the years, asterisk asterisk receipts for the vacation asterisk asterisk, every ticket, every reservation asterisk asterisk copies of property documents asterisk asterisk proving the house belonged solely to me asterisk asterisk photographs asterisk asterisk not of happy memories, but of the things I had paid for: their wedding rings, their first car, their moving truck asterisk asterisk screenshot of messages asterisk asterisk where they asked for help, promising to pay me back one day, asterisk asterisk a copy of my updated will asterisk asterisk with their names removed, and finally, on top of everything, I placed a letter. A long letter, not angry, not vengeful, just honest. A letter that spelled out every sacrifice, every disappointment, every moment I felt myself becoming smaller and smaller in their lives. A letter that ended with one simple sentence, asterisk asterisk. A man can only be treated like a burden for so long before he remembers he was once a father. Asterisk asterisk. I sealed the box shut with a slow, steady breath. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk. Final step. The locks asterisk asterisk. The locksmith came the next morning. A young man, polite, efficient. He replaced every lock, front door, back door, garage. When he handed me the new set of keys, I felt something inside me settle into place. For years I had opened doors for my son. Now I was closing one, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. The house felt different afterward, cleaner, safer. Lighter, as if it finally belonged to me again. I set the sealed package on a small table near the front door. I knew exactly where I wanted it to be when they returned. I stood in the quiet hallway, looking at it, and whispered, "They'll understand soon." And maybe, just maybe, so would I. The morning they were due to return, the air felt unusually still, as if the world itself had stopped to watch what would happen next. I woke before sunrise, unable to sleep any longer, the soft glow seeping through the curtains, catching the dust motes in the air. It reminded me of all the mornings I used to get up early to make pancakes for Jacob when he was a boy, back when he still loved me with the innocent, unquestioning heart of a child. But the man he had grown into, the man who left me at the airport like an unwanted parcel, no longer resembled that boy at all. I made coffee, quietly moving around the kitchen, every movement deliberate, measured. There was no trembling now, no uncertainty. I almost didn't recognize myself, this calm, collected man who was capable of closing a chapter without stuttering or stumbling. On the small table near the door sat the package, neat, sealed, waiting. It looked harmless enough, but I knew the weight of truth inside it would hit harder than any scream or punch. I checked the locks one last time. The new metal gleamed untouched. Untested, I held the new key in my hand for a moment, feeling its sharp edges press into my palm. This was no longer a house where they could walk in freely. This was no longer a place where disrespect lived comfortably. This was a home with boundaries, my boundaries, and today they were going to learn that. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk. The car in the driveway asterisk asterisk. It was nearly 6 p.m. when I heard the rumble of gravel under tires. My heart thudded once, a heavy, resounding beat, and then steadied. They were home. I moved silently into the hallway, standing just out of view, but close enough to hear. Through the frosted glass beside the door, I saw shadows moving, heard muffled voices. The kids were the first to bounce up the steps, their excited chatter carrying easily, "Mommy, we're home." Jacob's voice followed, tired but cheerful. "I can't wait to sleep in my own bed." Melissa's laugh drifted through the glass, light, satisfied. Best vacation ever. We needed this so much. The irony stung, but the pain no longer surprised me. I stepped back, unseen, as Jacob reached the door. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk. The moment of realization asterisk asterisk. I heard the metal of the old key slide into the lock. A turn, a pause, another turn, harder this time, then a confused huff. What the? He tried again, and again. Metal scraped against metal in a desperate, ugly sound. Melissa stepped in. "Let me try yours," she said. I could hear the irritation already rising in her voice, the kind that always appeared whenever life dared inconvenience her. She inserted her key, turned, stopped, turned again. "It's not working either," she said, confusion sharpening into frustration. "It has to," Jacob muttered. Dad probably jammed it or something. The blame came instantly, natural to him now it seemed, but I stayed quiet. Melissa tried the key again, then stepped back sharply. "Jacob, why is there a box here?" The porch creaked as she bent down. "What box?" he asked, distracted still by the stubborn lock. "This one." Her voice faltered slightly. "It has our names on it." I imagined her fingers tracing the handwriting she had never appreciated. "My handwriting?" She tore the tape open. For a moment there was only silence, then a sharp inhale, a gasp, a strangled sound that was half surprise, half dread. "What the hell?" She whispered, papers rustled frantically, receipts, bank transfers, printouts, photos, legal documents, pages of truth, years of sacrifice. Jacob. She shrieked, voice cracking. Jacob, look at this. Look, look. He turned then, confusion turning to alarm. What is it? His footsteps thudded as he moved closer, and then the screaming began. Melissa let out a sound I had never heard from her. Raw, terrified, almost primal. A sound born from the sudden realization that everything she had comfortably assumed was hers wasn't. What is this? Why is he? Why did he? Oh my God! Jacob snatched the papers from her hands. What is? He stopped mid-sentence, his breath hitched, then, louder, panicked. What the hell is going on? There it was. There was the moment the ground beneath them finally shifted. They thought they owned my home. They thought they owned my time. They thought they owned my kindness. They thought they owned me. But now, staring at the legal documents that stripped away every inch of that unearned entitlement, they realized the truth. The house belonged to me, always had, still did, and now firmly and exclusively. Dad wouldn't do this, Jacob whispered, but there was no conviction in his voice, only fear. Melissa cradled her head in her hands, rocking slightly. He changed the locks, she said. He changed the locks. Jacob, he changed the locks. Her voice pitched higher. We don't live here anymore. We don't. This can't be real. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk, the confrontation, asterisk, asterisk. I decided it was time. I reached for the door handle, unlocked it from my side, and slowly opened it. The sudden silence was deafening. Jacob froze, still clutching the papers. Melissa stared at me with wide, tear-filled eyes. Even the kids fell silent, confused and afraid. I stepped onto the porch, calm as a man stepping into a gentle breeze. Dad, Jacob whispered, voice trembling. What is all this? For a moment I simply looked at them, the family I raised, the people I loved, the people who left me at an airport without hesitation. I exhaled slowly. This, I said quietly, is the reality you chose. Jacob's eyes darted between the documents and my face. You changed the locks. He said, disbelief woven into every word. I did. You kicked us out. No, I corrected softly. You removed yourselves the moment you told me I wasn't welcome. He flinched. Melissa stepped forward, shaking. You can't do this, she said, voice cracking. We have kids. We need this house. You needed me too, I said, but that didn't stop you from throwing me away the moment it was convenient. She blinked rapidly, her throat bobbing as she swallowed back. Sob, Jacob stepped closer. Dad, he whispered, we made a mistake. A stupid mistake. But we didn't think. You didn't think. I cut in gently, because you didn't care. The words hit him harder than any shout could have. He staggered slightly, retreating a half step. Please, he said, tears brimming. Dad, please. We're sorry. For a long moment I said nothing. The porch light flickered on as the sky dimmed. The children huddled close to their mother. The air felt tight with desperation, like the world itself was holding its breath. Finally, I spoke. You will read everything in that box. I said softly, every page. Every letter, every number, and when you understand, truly understand what you've done, then we can talk. I lifted my hand, gesturing slightly toward the driveway, but not here. Not tonight. I stepped back inside the house, the home that once belonged to all of us, now mine alone. Dad, please. Jacob cried, taking a step toward the door. I shook my head. Good night, Jacob. And then I closed the door. No slam, no anger, just a calm, final closing. On the other side, I heard their sobs. Their panic, their regret, the same emotions I had felt at the airport gifted back to them tenfold. For the first time in years I felt steady, not vengeful, just finally, painfully respected, even if it came too late. The night they returned was one of the longest I'd ever lived through. Not because I felt uncertain, no, that part of me had burned away days ago, but because endings, even necessary ones, have a way of stirring every memory, every old wound, every fragment of love left inside your chest. I sat in my armchair near the front hallway. a single lamp glowing beside me, casting long shadows along the walls. Through the closed door I could hear them. My son, his wife, and my grandkids moving around on the porch. Their muffled voices carried through the wood like echoes from another lifetime. They didn't leave for a long time. They cried, they whispered, they argued, they pleaded. At one point, Melissa sobbed so loudly it pierced straight through the door and straight into some fragile, hidden place inside me. But I didn't open the door again. Forgiveness could not come before understanding. Not this time. Not after what they had done. Eventually their voices faded, replaced by the dull rumble of their car pulling away. When silence finally returned, it was almost a physical presence, heavy, thick, but strangely comforting. The house felt like itself again, and for the first time in years, so did I. *##**** the morning after ***, I expected to wake up with guilt gnawing at my stomach. I expected the weight of what I had done to crush the small pocket of strength I'd found. Instead, I woke with a peace I hadn't felt in years. The sun streamed through the curtains in warm, golden rays. Birds chirped outside. The house smelled faintly of coffee and old wood. It felt like a home that finally had a heartbeat again mine. I made breakfast and ate it slowly, savoring the fresh quiet. I even hummed, a habit I hadn't indulged since before my wife passed. You don't realize how suffocating manipulative people are until the air is clean again. Halfway through my second cup of coffee, my phone buzzed. A message from Jacob. Dad. We're at a motel. Please, can we talk today? We're sorry. We need to fix this. I stared at the message for a long time. Once upon a time, I would have rushed to him, forgiven him instantly, smoothed things over just to keep the peace. I had spent decades doing that, choosing harmony over honesty, acceptance over boundaries. That man no longer existed, but I did love them, and I did want a relationship, just not at the cost of myself. So I responded. Come by at noon. Alone, *##**, Jacob's arrival, at exactly 12. I saw him through the window standing in the driveway, shoulders sagging, hands trembling. He looked like a man who had aged 10 years in one night. I opened the door before he knocked. He stopped on the porch, eyes red, face swollen, his voice cracked. Dad, I didn't speak. I just waited. It took him a long moment to gather the courage to continue. I'm sorry, he finally said, the words spilling out like a broken dam. I'm so unbelievably sorry. What we did, what I let happen, was cruel. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I let Melissa push me into it. I don't know why Jacob, I interrupted softly, don't blame her. You made your own choices. He winced as if I'd struck him. I know, he whispered, I know. That's what hurts the most. He swallowed hard, his voice trembling. I read everything in that box. I didn't realize how much you've done for us. I didn't realize how selfish I've been. I didn't realize how much I've hurt you. You could hear genuine shame in his voice, raw, unfiltered. I felt a shift inside myself. Not forgiveness, not yet, but recognition. Maybe this wasn't just fear or loss speaking. Maybe he truly saw what he had done. Dad, he said, tears falling freely now, I don't want your house. I don't want your money. I don't want anything except a chance to make this right. I looked at him for a long, heavy moment. My son, my little boy, a grown man who had forgotten who raised him, finally remembering. Sit down, I said gently, gesturing to the porch step. He sank down instantly, wiping his face with shaking hands. ###**. The conversation we should have had years ago. ****. We talked for a long time. Longer than we'd talked in years, about his marriage, about the pressure he felt, about how Melissa's resentment had seeped into him like poison, about how he didn't know how to push back, how to stand up, how to protect the man who had raised him, about my loneliness, about the grief that never fully healed, about how many times I felt myself fading into the background of their lives. At one point, Jacob sobbed into his hands, whispering, I don't deserve you. I placed a hand on his shoulder. Maybe not before. I said softly, but you're trying now? That counts, he nodded, tears running down his cheeks. When can we come home? He asked, voice barely audible. I took a slow breath, and then I shook my head. Not yet. His face crumpled. But this isn't punishment. I added, this is a boundary. I need time. You need time. Melissa needs time. Everything shattered too quickly. If we rush back, nothing will truly change. He nodded slowly, painfully. I understand. He whispered, and I believed him. For the first time in a long time, I believed him. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk, a new beginning, not a return, asterisk, asterisk. We agreed to meet once a week. Just him and me, rebuilding from the ground up. He would talk to Melissa separately. She had not shown up today, not because she didn't want to, but because she was too ashamed to face me. That, at least, showed some growth. As Jacob stood to leave, he hesitated, then wrapped his arms around me in a tight, trembling embrace. I love you, Dad, he whispered. I'm sorry I forgot. I hugged him back. I love you too, I said quietly, but from now on, love must come with respect. He nodded into my shoulder when he finally pulled away and walked down the steps. I felt the tiniest flicker of something warm inside my chest. Hope, not foolish, desperate hope, real hope, grounded, mature, earned. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk, justice doesn't always have to be cruel, asterisk, asterisk. As I closed the door behind him, I realized something. My revenge hadn't been about hurting them. It had been about honoring myself, teaching that kindness is a gift, not something to exploit, teaching myself that boundaries are not cruelty, they're protection, teaching all of us that love without respect is poison, and maybe, just maybe, this painful break was the only way for us to have a future at all. Not the same future, a better one. The sweetest form of justice isn't destruction, it's transformation, and on that quiet afternoon, with the sun pouring softly into my home, I finally felt something I hadn't felt in so long. I felt whole again.